Hi, welcome to my channel, which is the physics of shuffling. This is my second video, and in this one we're going to go over some basic questions that I get a lot from beginners when they're learning how to shuffle. One of them is, what type of shoes should I wear when I'm shuffling? Or, what is the best surface to shuffle on? I'm going to give you the answers to all of these questions, as well as the physics as to why I think that these are those answers. Yeah! When beginners first start shuffling, often what they do is that they wear socks and they do it on carpet, something like this. As you become a more experienced shuffler, you eventually start to wear shoes and do it outside, because when you go to a festival, you are going to be outside and you're going to be in shoes, just like this. The reason why beginners often choose socks and carpet as opposed to outside with shoes is because it's more slippery. The reason why some things are more slippery or have more grip than others is this thing called friction. There are many different types of friction. We have static friction, kinetic friction, rolling friction, and even wind friction, often known more as drag or wind resistance. In shuffling, we mainly just see kinetic and static friction being applied to the situation. So moving forward, I am just going to really be focusing on those two, as the bottom two don't really necessarily apply to this situation. If you don't understand what static and kinetic friction are, I highly recommend going over to the channel of Wally Science Bro, where he has two great videos on static and kinetic friction. Both of those videos will explain what static and kinetic friction are using minimal math, and it's also pretty entertaining. So here I have the equations for static and kinetic friction. As we can see, the two equations are very similar. Both of them, we have the force friction is equal to mu times n, which is the normal force, and mu is our coefficient of friction. So that little weird looking u thing is called a mu, like the Pokemon. Mew. If we notice looking at the equations, mu has a little subscript of s or k, standing for static or kinetic friction. The coefficients of friction are different for static and kinetic friction, even when they both are involving the same surface. One of the things that is always true is that the static coefficient of friction is always larger than the kinetic form of friction. And you can experience this basically when you're trying to get an object to move that isn't moving. It is harder to get that object to move than to keep it moving once it's already started. So if you're pushing something like a heavy box, it's hard to get that heavy box to start to slide, but once it starts to slide, it becomes a lot easier. And that is the difference between static and kinetic friction. So in shuffling, we have both of these two cases coming up, right? When we're moving our feet and it's sliding across the surface, you have kinetic friction that is in play. When you're like jumping from one side to another and a foot gets planted, you end up with a static friction scenario because you're not moving. When you're wearing socks and you're on carpet, the mu value is going to be smaller than if you're wearing shoes and you're on concrete. When you're a beginner, your muscles can't efficiently drive the forces that is needed to allow you to move as easily, which is why a lot of people choose to be on carpet with socks. As you become more experienced, right, your muscles will get stronger and then you'll be able to drive the force that you need to allow you to move across those surfaces, essentially with shoes. Also just like to mention is my personal favorite area to shuffle in is actually wearing shoes on asphalt. No, not asphalt, concrete? Concrete. And my favorite place to actually shuffle is on concrete with shoes, where it's not too rough, because sometimes you can get a little rougher surface. Asphalt is actually not one of the best ones because it's very grippy. It's designed to basically, if rubber is on top of it, it's designed to have grip, so that way cars don't go flying off the side of the road. So that one's actually pretty difficult. And I actually think also grass, while grass can be very slippery, oftentimes it's actually kind of bumpy, and actually I sometimes get a little worried about catching or rolling an ankle, something like that. I forgot to talk about the types of shoes you should be wearing. So now, your shoe choice is really up to your preference, but I personally really like running shoes because it provides a good stability back to front, and it kind of allows you to change side to side motions pretty easily. Plus also the surfaces that is on a running shoe usually is slippery enough to allow sliding to occur, but still grippy enough that you're just not going to fall over. Another tip that I would like to leave you guys with, which was one given to me by the person who taught me how to shuffle, is that you can take a strip of duct tape and put it on the bottom of your shoe. Something like this. This basically just allows you to have something just to be a little bit more slick if you know that you're going to be on a surface that's going to be kind of sticky. I particularly used this when I was in my younger days and I would go to clubs and the floor is just super sticky because everyone is spilling drinks. Yeah. It also works, you know, if you're going to be on like asphalt or something else that is very sticky. If you like this video, please like and subscribe.